this week has been a doozy. First off, do you remember Cedric, the guy in the wheelchair from the other week? Well, he came to the Spanish class. Along with Fabiola, who came to church the other week, you remember, and she brought her son, David. So David, Fabiola, and Cedric were all at our Spanish class, and it was awesome. Then on Tuesday, something mundane and normal turned into something truly crazy. I call it the cleaning lady fiasco. So last week on Tuesday morning, I thought to myself, you know, the cleaning ladies, they work pretty hard. And I looked down at the stuff on my floor and I thought, I'm gonna help the cleaning lady out and clear up some of this stuff.
Now, since I've been here in Spain, the cleaning ladies have been super nice, so I was expecting something sorta like this.
Just here to clean the room, sweetie. Oh, no, don't get up. You rest yourself. You put your feet up. You relax. I'm gonna get this place spick and span for you. All right, honey, don't you worry your pretty little face now. I definitely was not expecting this. Out! The time of cleansing is upon us! Begone, foul creature!
I was so surprised, I told her, just 1 second, let me grab my phone, and so I grabbed my phone and ran out the door, forgetting my key inside. People in the hallway were like, oh, she got ejected, and I was like, hey, and I was kind of embarrassed. But not 5 minutes passed and the lady came back out, and I was like, whoa.
Remember, I didn't have my key, so I had to ask her to let her back in my room.
But when I went back inside, nothing had been cleaned. I spotted a note that said something to the effect of, I cannot be expected to clean such putrid filth.
By now I was panicking because I had class in 20 minutes, but we needed clean towels and toilet paper for the rest of the week, and so I cleared off my desk, I ran downstairs with a note in hand, and I handed it to the receptionist, and I said, listen, I don't know what to do, I've never had a note like this before, what do I do to fix this? Long story short, the people at the desk came up to my room, looked around, and were like, it's not that bad, and I said, that's what I said! They said they would take care of it and to just go to class, so I just went to class and hoped that by the time I got back, the cleaning lady would have come and gone already. I think it was just that lady. Anu sprained her ankle while we were playing sports on Wednesday, and I tell you something, ankles just aren't safe here in Spain. So she wasn't able to make it to the Prado Museum. The Prado Museum has thousands of famous pieces of art. One of the famous paintings is called Garden of Earthly Delight, which is the painting that Terry Williams wrote about in her book Leap that we're reading for class. Terry Williams wrote a 300-something page book on the intense meaning of it and the depth. Me personally, I looked at it and I was getting like Dr. Seuss vibes, a little bit of Candyland and some Hollywood, a lot of interesting stuff, but I was not getting any enlightenment. As we continued throughout the Prado, we saw a bunch of cool stuff. We saw Renaissance-era paintings, we saw portraits of kings on horseback. There was one painting of a little girl princess and her two little ladies-in-waiting friends, and then in the background there was a mirror with the king and queen, so it was like a snapshot, but somebody had to paint it, so it took hours and hours. That was a pretty cool idea. Back when they didn't have digital cameras, being able to imagine an instant in the royal home and then painting it so it could last forever. We were joined at the Prado by a guy named John Rosenberg, who's actually the vice president of BYU Provo. He knew a lot about the paintings in there, and so he gave us kind of a tour. In the Prado Museum, he was telling us about Italian Renaissance artists like Leonardo, Raphael, and Michelangelo. I laughed when he didn't say Donatello because I'm like, I know these names. He told us that back in the day, artists weren't really respected. They were kind of considered lower class workers because they worked with their hands. So to prove they were smart and stuff, artists would use geometry to show depth in their paintings. The next day, Thursday morning, we all set out for our new adventure. Now let me tell you something about Anu. She is one of the most awesome people you'll ever meet. She's super strong, and because of that, she had just sprained her ankle, but she didn't want to take the crutches because she didn't want to like she was slowing anybody down, and she wasn't. And so the Professor Madden was like, hey, can you run up and get her crutches? And I was like, yeah. So I ran up the stairs, got the crutches, and we set out on the road. The first place we hit on the road was Avila. We visited the convent of St. Teresa of Avila. It was interesting because it's a convent that's still being used, so 29 nuns actually live there. We didn't see any of them when we went inside because they were all somewhere else in the convent, but it was interesting. We saw these rooms where they could visit their families if their families came to the convent, and it was like a jail where there's like a glass and you have to stay behind the glass, except instead of a glass, it was a cage, which I feel like is a little bit restrictive. Anyways, we left Avila and went to go see the St. Vincent Cathedral. The floor was very squeaky. Before leaving the city of Avila, John Rosenberg told us that the Avila Wall is one of the most complete walls in Europe. There's been a lot of restoration work done, and so we climbed the wall and it was awesome. As you know, I love a good view. We then went to Salamanca. Salamanca is a university town. Having gone to college myself, I'm familiar with university town culture. There was some sort of party going on or something in one of the squares. Everybody was wearing costumes. We learned that anciently, in the 1200s, the university was run by students, not by teachers. And the teachers had to take exams every year too to make sure they were still up for teaching. That night, me and Anu went to a Chinese restaurant. We noticed that the restaurant was mainly a takeout restaurant because there was not a lot of people in the actual restaurant itself. When somebody would ring in an order online, the computer would ding and it would say, "You have a new order. You have a new order. You have a new order." It was pretty rhythmic. I started beatboxing every time it did that.
You have a new order. You have a new order.
I don't know if the waitress found it as amusing as I did, but she didn't say anything. On Friday, on the drive from Salamanca to León, we stopped at a little tiny Visigoth church. Where the main carving should have been at the center back of the church, somebody had just put a stone slab. John Rosenberg told us that that used to be a depiction of the tree of life, like the tree from Lehi's dream. I thought that was pretty cool. He told us that instead of glass, they used to use very thin stone for the windows. And I said, of course! Brother Rosenberg also told us that they've been celebrating Christmas Eve there since the 1300s. 700 years of Christmas Eves. And it's just this tiny little church way out of the way. After Anu decorated my braid with flowers, we drove on to León. León in Spanish means lion, but according to Brother Rosenberg, it actually derives from the Roman word legion, which is like an army. We visited the Cathedral of Santa Maria de León. I've seen a handful of cathedrals in my time here, but this cathedral was very pretty. I loved the stained glass windows. They were so colorful and it lit up the ceiling. As we walked home from visiting the cathedral, there was a women's march going on. A whole ton of women had taken the color purple and drawn a symbol on their cheeks. They were holding up purple banners. They were wearing purple clothing. Some of the signs they were carrying were pretty funny, like, "We are the granddaughters of the witches that you could not burn," and "A woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle." They were pretty sassy. So that was fun. Me, Nicole, and Anu went and got ice cream. I figured out that I have this weird talent, I think. We went to a jewelry shop and I was joking around like, "Oh, you would get a ring and it would look like this," and I was showing Nicole and she was like, "I can't do that." And I was like this? She was like, "No." And I asked Anu, and she couldn't do it either. But basically, you put your 3 fingers flat and you have your 1 finger up like this. Can you do that? If you can do this with your fingers, take a picture of yourself and put it in the comments, because I want to see. So on Saturday, we went to the Pantheon in León. The Pantheon is basically like the king's library and home while staying in León. She showed us these ancient books. These books were huge. They weighed like 60 kilos. The books were half as big as me. Unfortunately, we weren't allowed to take pictures in there, but it was pretty crazy. Then she showed us this chalice, which apparently is famous. I could only think of 2 things while she showed us. 1, Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I've seen clips. And 2, The Chalice in the Palace. Court Jester is one of my favorite movies, and that's a quote from it. Something interesting I learned was that lockets, like the word locket, comes from a lock of hair. Because women used to take a lock of hair, put it in the locket, and give it to their lover. We visited Tordesillas, which is basically where Portugal and Spain decided how they were going to divvy up the New World. And then we stopped at a castle on the way back to Madrid. Gotta love a good castle. There's some loud motors here in Alcalá. Last quick update, my bug bite is all better. I think it's like most problems. If you just kind of let it be and don't scratch it, eventually it'll go away. That's all for this week. Ciao for now!